The Chiefs started getting after it as they build up for their offseason program to get ready to build a better Kansas City Chiefs in 2022. There's a couple of questions, so we're going to get to it all, as well as answer a few of your questions tonight on RGR Football. Welcome back, everybody. This is RGR Football. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL around a little bit. I'm certainly going rogue on the way that I spell, so thank you, Frank, for letting me know. It's been a rough day as far as my spelling goes on graphics lately, so got that taken care of. Stevie, I did get your message. Thank you very much, and I think we will muddle through as we want, and just let me know if something pops up. Thank you for being here, Stevie, and thank all of you for being here. This is kind of a fun day. I know it's not regular season football, but it is that first inkling of what regular season football is going to be. It's a first look at the players, at everybody that you've been waiting to see since they signed in free agency or a little bit after the draft. It's one thing to see rookie camp, but it's a whole other thing to see them joining their teammates on the field for the whole 9 yards. So we're going to get into it tonight. Now, we had a last minute thing with Seth, so I am riding solo tonight. So that means I'm going to talk about the main topic, and then we're going to shift to your questions like we do on Monday nights, and we'll get a lot of extra oomph out of the Q&A kind of section here tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like this video, make sure you sub to the channel, and then make sure that you hit that bell so you see what else comes down, because we have things coming for you all the time. And we're going to add some new wrinkles. We're going to change some things around. There's always something coming. So keep an eye out for that. Our crew is at least partially in the house tonight. The family Morrow is not here at the moment, but Stevie Keys is. So say hi to Stevie, and hopefully we'll get more in the house tonight as well. So the big thing for me is the reason that I wanted to say is building better. And I put Nick on the cover because for tonight, I wanted to emphasize that it's not just the new additions they're going to make this team better. It's also about the returning players taking a step forward in each of their progressive roles. And so that's really important as well. And Nick Bolton is one of them. He actually was one of the guys that Andy called out in the first presser here. So it's perfectly fine that Liz isn't here. Thanks for letting me know again, Stevie. And we'll muddle through. We'll be all right. It's one thing to just take a step forward. It's another thing to really jump into your role. And I thought, you guys all know that I thought Nick Bolton outplayed my expectation for him last year and most people's expectation, right? So now it's about what can he do to raise his level again, and just to be the first day out and picking off passes and getting coach to call you out. I think that's a really, really good sign. So I'm optimistic about that. And I'm optimistic about a lot about this defense. So I think there's a ways to go. Now, don't worry, folks. We are going to get to Q&A tonight. No problem. If you want to super chat us, thank you very much. Or me, I guess, tonight. I keep saying us. I appreciate that. But please ask a question with it. Let me get you something for it. Super chats are the easiest way to support the channel. A little bit more lengthy, takes a little bit more time. The gear store really helps as well. And if you want non-Chiefs news, if you want NFL-wide, like building teams, et cetera, check out our new thing, my newest venture, NFL33.com, where we're doing a Substack version of how you build teams, news around the league, what changes that affect not necessarily Chiefs, but in a way, all their opponents and all the things that are coming. So there is a ton going on. So the big news that we need to talk about, and I was not surprised. I think it caught up and snuck up on a lot of people, is that Orlando Brown was not in practice and is not in OTAs. I don't expect him in OTAs. And I honestly don't expect him before training camp. I hope that they can work out a deal, but that isn't based on being at OTAs. So that's not a problem. That won't stop a deal from getting done. The thing that will stop a deal from getting done is the fact that Orlando doesn't have an agent yet. And that news came out today as well. And that's a big deal. So it makes it harder to negotiate. He said he doesn't want to negotiate without an agent. If he doesn't have an agent pretty soon, he's going to start to rethink that. But I think that's a negative thing for both the player and for the franchise. You want to have representation because they're professionals and that's what they do. And it takes the stress off of the player and the organization that you have to play for. You got to get together. And as the season is coming up, I don't think you want to be doing that. So I hope that he finds an agent that he likes and he can go there right now, kind of get signed up and get going, because I think that's key to the rest of the preseason kind of role for what the Chiefs want to do in possibly any other moves, clearing up space, possibly going after a trade. Like there's a lot of things that have to be done. And I think that's really important. So I'm not worried about Orlando on the field. I am worried about the timeline to get him represented and be able to negotiate before there is a deadline. And I do believe that the deadline is, I thought it was June. It's not. It's July. It is mid-July before the tag has to be signed. I got corrected on that today by Chris, who knows all those cap-specific things. So check that out. And we have a pretty good show over on Locked On Chiefs today, so check that out when you have a second as well. It'll post on here either tonight or tomorrow morning. I am stacking some of your questions, so don't worry, guys. We will get to it. But if you are new, like Stevie said, if you would put question marks at the beginning of your question, that will help me find them. And that's really the hardest part about this is finding them for me. So that's kind of the way that it rolls. Let's see. I see a couple I'm going to put in the queue here. And I just wanted to kind of talk everybody off the ledge because I see people asking questions and texting me and stuff already about, what does this mean for Orlando? It just means it's a slow start. So it's going to be what it is. Okay, getting more. And no, Caleb, Seth thought he might make it. We had a bit of a communication, and he was not able to make it overall. So he's on the way to Florida. He's heading for the beach with his family. So I'm going to man it tonight, all by my lonesome, and we'll be OBKB. Let's see. We got all that stuff done. Getting that down. Okay. So a lot of questions. There was one injury. I'm sure it'll come up tonight, but just so you guys know, McCall Hardman was sitting out with hamstring again. I'm not terribly concerned about it, but I just feel for him because this is the offseason that he needed that momentum, like he was late working out with Patrick, but then he got in the flow, and that's really good. And part of the crew, part of the receiver core, I think that's important. And that helps you roll into the season. So now when you got to kind of hit the brakes for a little bit, it doesn't make it worth as much. So, it makes it harder, but I think he's going to be okay. So, hey, Dave Perez is here tonight. Dave, I hope you're doing well. We're going to get back to doing the super member stuff as we get into the off season here. And I'll definitely have to hit you up again. So you are the man, 24 months. You're approaching that really quickly. One of our original members, folks. Say hi to Dave Perez if you don't know him already. And Dave's been around here since membership's launched. And if you are a member and you want to get into the Discord as well, just join at the rookie level and send me an email. That is the easiest way to do it right now. The plugin that I tried to get that Aaron had suggested didn't work. I don't know why. I don't know enough about the Discord platform to see what the tie-in problem was. But this email will get to me, and then I'll be able to add you manually, and that's kind of the easiest way right now. So please do that. We got a few questions stacked here. I'm going to get started. So we will go through that and answer your questions. Yes, Terry, I did see it. I haven't gotten any word whether it's significant or not. I think it's just, it's a small thing that if it turns into a big thing, then I'll get worried about it because I do think he needs that timing and that stuff with everybody else. But he's got the best chemistry or timing with the new guys he's way ahead of in terms of working with Mahomes. So it is what it is. So I don't think that that's a problem. But if he doesn't perform, if he's not able to perform, if he's not able to practice and make those things, in camp it hurts you. Here, I'm not too worried. I think he's going to be okay. Even if he falls a little bit behind, it still gives the other guys that are more critical to getting the offense corrected and getting it spread back out. That gives you that opportunity. And I am seeing people asking about Seth again. Seth had to step away and leave for Florida a little bit earlier than we thought. We didn't quite get him on here tonight, so it's just me. So I hope you guys are going to be okay with that. We'll get Seth back. Hopefully next week we'll see when he returns, and we'll go from there. But he needs some time away with the fam, so we're not going to hold that against him too much. Doug, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Really like Justin Reed's presser. Think he's a leader. I agreed. And the team's doing everything to make that happen. They when they brought him in, they were very specific that they wanted to get him out front and wanted to get him in front of not only his teammates, but of the media as well. And that's usually a sign that they want you to become a leader on the field. Now they're putting him in a position that I think he's going to be able to make a bigger impact than he has in the past. And I think he's going to be more of the focal point, more of the piece that you're trying to move around rather than the guy that is allowing others to be the tools, the exponential kind of playmaker types. I think they're looking for Justin Reed to become that. And when you become that, most of the time, the guys that are the best on a roster are the guys that become the leaders. It just makes sense that if you're elite skill level, then you should be out front and trying to raise the level of the rest of your roster. So that is generally the way it works. Not always. So there is some kind of like, I won't say pushing, but like definitely trying to set Justin Reed up to be the leader. And I think at the end of the day, what he showed today in the presser, I thought was, a great level of enthusiasm. I think that goes a long way. We haven't seen anybody excited to be in this defense for quite a while. So I like the way that it came off and the vibe that he gave. So thanks, Doug. Appreciate you. Logan, what do you think the D-line looks like week one? I think Karlaftis is going to be a starter. Like, there's no way he's not. A, they don't have anyone else. And B, he's a first-round draft pick. He's going to start unless he screws something up. So I don't see that happening. So it's going to be Frank, Chris Jones, Noddy, and Karlaftis is the way that they'll start. But Noddy is a run-first player. Unless he's really made some changes, he's not a third-down type defensive tackle. So he'll come off, and they'll sub in. The question is going to be, who's it going to be? Is it Turk Wharton is the first guy off the bench? I think it could be. And if he is ready, I think Turk in particular, if he's ready to take the next step forward in his evolution, that he certainly deserves that because he's got the explosiveness, he's got the punch, he's got the things that he needs to take that step forward and take his game up a level that actually helps the whole team and actually helps get wins. That's what it comes down to now. Now, if he doesn't, that's okay. It's still a little bit early and he had quite the jump from his college level to get here. Excuse me. So we'll see. But if it's not Turk, who is it? And that becomes the question. This is probably the last go-around for Colin Saunders. I do believe this is the last year of his contract. And he's got to step up and do something. I know he's had the injury history, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Got to put that all aside and break through this season. And I think what they did, I'm pulling for him. You guys know that I've liked Colin for a long time, and I do feel that he has the upside to make an impact in this game. But I think they brought in Stallworth to push him a little bit, to tell you the truth. Now, Stallworth, let's be honest. He had 1 year of good pass rush production from the D tackle spot. It was last year. And the Colts didn't decide to bring him back. That tells you something. So I hope that he can turn that into gold and reproduce that, but I don't think we can hold our breath for it. So you look to see a rotation there. Now, this is one of the few positions that I think they could look to make another acquisition before we get to the regular season. So that might not be said and done. If they do, I think that's probably a positive. I just don't know how they're going to get somebody of quality unless, it's either a veteran cut down or a trade for cap relief is basically the way it's going to come down. If somebody gets beat out, you could have a player available that maybe Brett Veach wants to go get. So that's what I think that it looks like week one, Logan. And Stevie's back. Everybody, make sure you check out Stevie and Gooch and Aaron's new channel, Back Talk Bros. Sorry. Stevie, throw it in the chat so everybody can get to it real easy. Go over there and sub to them as well. You want to see them a little unfiltered, a little bit less of a filter than is over here. So Stevie's talking about thoughts on Shady McKay talking about EB, saying that EB was the reason he stopped playing in KC and saying that the league knows what type of coach he is and that's why he's hyped up but not hired. That, it's pretty eye-opening. Now, I will say this. EB is the guy that at the time Shady would have dealt with the most. I also feel like there's probably a personality conflict there. Now, EB's kind of rough around the edges. We all know that. And if you don't know that, I'm here to tell you, I've heard for a long time that he is brash and upfront to the point that it's rough sometimes. Now, that is what it is. Every coach has a style, and he's been very successful doing that. Now, if you're an older veteran that's trying to get your last run at a Super Bowl or something like that, and he's going to hold you accountable and he's going to talk to you like he talks to everyone else, maybe that rubbed Shady the wrong way. Maybe he thought that he walked in and had a little bit more clout than that. I honestly don't know. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but I could see that. So it certainly would, I don't think, be something that precludes an owner from hiring him or a GM from hiring him. I think most football guys respect that, in that you're holding and you're talking in a way that holds guys accountable for what they're supposed to do. Now, if it goes beyond that, and that's not something that I've heard, I don't hear about anything outlandish or, cussing guys out, down to their shorts or anything else, but he certainly used colorful language, but it's not like, degrading as far as I understand. If that's not the case, and it is at times degrading, then I can understand why he hasn't been hired. That's not something I think in this era that you can be positive and still function that way and get the best out of your players. That's for sure. So I just find it really interesting because it's if it was something real, I would think that Andy Reid would have had Shady's ear in a heartbeat and done something about that. So I'm a little bit like, I'm sure it's rougher than he meant, but I also think he's probably, at his age, he was probably a little sensitive about some of it, is my guess. I don't know. At the same time, if because of that, there's some internal strife and it was EB's decision to not play Shady anymore, then I have a problem with that, because he was productive and he gave you something you didn't have. That was short-sighted on trying to get wins. So I don't know what the conflict was. I don't know that we'll ever know, to tell you the truth. But I'm going to be really, really skeptical until we ever find out. And we probably won't, but if we ever did. So I'm going to say it's a bit of both. And personality conflicts happen all the time. And when you're a player of Shady's age, you're going to call it out. And you're going to obviously have vehicles like podcasts and things that want to know your opinion, are going to give you a microphone to do it. So, EB should be held accountable too. So everybody should, especially in that profession. It's impossible not to and still be successful. Mihu, thank you, sir. Do you have faith in the defensive line as it is now? I do. I have faith that they'll be solid against the run and they'll push the pocket. I don't have necessarily a ton of faith that they're going to improve their pressure rate, which the Chiefs' pressure rate was pretty good last year. I wanted to say they came out 18th. Their sack percentage was terrible, and so it was a finishing thing. And one of the things I had in the write-up of Karlaftis was that he was great at crushing the pocket and affecting the passer and moving him off his spot, but not good at finishing. So I don't think that he's the answer. He's got to be part of the answer, but I think until they get a 4-man pass rush that actually is effective at all 4 spots, I think it's going to be hard to really improve the total sack numbers. But at the same time, there are other things that Spags can do. We know that he likes to blitz off the DBs, and it's functional. It exposes the defense, I think. And so I think it's got to come down to, you have 3 linebackers that we know can blitz well, and Spags it has been reluctant to use them. I think that's got to change. And if you're going to bring 5, I think you got to bring 5 with some power. Not bringing a 200-pound DB off the edge, hoping he can get there from what is farther away. Leo Chanel can blow guards up. Willie can blow guards up. Nick Bolton can rush A gaps as good as anybody else. I think you have to use the linebackers more and make that part of the attack. Make it a known quantity. Hey, we're going to send linebackers at times. Then teams have to prepare for it. I think that makes the blocking schemes difficult. I think it makes the line calls for the opposition more difficult, and all of that helps. They're going to need some different attacks, different ways to get more pressure and really to take it to the next level without having to just rely on what Spags always relies on, and that is the front four. I'm stacking some more of your questions here too. So don't think that I'm ignoring you. It's just going to take me a little bit. And Chris, I kind of jumped the gun on you there a minute. Hang on a second. Okay, and back to the main list. So next up is Jaden. How you doing, Jaden? Justin Reed had the attitude I like to hear. Well-spoken, passionate player. What's your thoughts on him? I'm excited for him because obviously we know he has a connection with Tyron, right? And so he's learned vicariously that way. He's learned as the other safety in that scenario, right? So now it's to the point where he can step up and be that leader and be that playmaker. I liked his college film. He hasn't turned into the player that I thought he could. And I think if Spags and Dave Merritt give him the freedom to do that, with Juan kind of covering over the top when they go single and in the rotations so that he becomes kind of that playmaker chess piece, I think that that's good. He can't drop down and play the nickel corner like Tyron did. So blitzing him becomes a little bit more difficult. You got to disguise it more and you got to time it better. But I do think in the field, in space, I think he can be a big playmaker. And yes, he did sound passionate. Like I said, he had a good vibe. Like he had a lot of positiveness. And I think it's kind of easy to do right now in OTAs. I'm not saying it's not, but I like that. And I like what that brings to the whole group because that lifts everybody. And I think that's something they got to have some edge, like in that, some attitude guys, but you also have to have the guys that lift everything as well. And so I think that's a nice kind of meet in the middle, some balance there. We'll see how that works out. And we'll see if that sustains because I think there's other guys that could lead too. It's about a personality fit too. And Justin Reed certainly seems like he's comfortable being a vocal leader, not just a leader on the field. That's sometimes hard to find. So I'm excited for where it's going. It looked good today. Let's see what happens going forward, Jaden. Okay, let's see. You know, all the useful stuff like physical numbers and tendencies. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. I just can't spell nothing. Although, thanks to to the fan message, I did get it updated before we went. So hopefully when everybody got notified, it was actually a decently spelled thumbnail. You never know with me. Eric, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate your support. Good thing they emphasize athleticism and physicality in the draft. Going to need blitz from everywhere to get pressure on the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, and I think that was a known quantity, and that was kind of a theme. So there is the argument to be made that yes, there were speed rushers, there were guys that could bend the edge in this last draft, but they weren't as productive as you wanted either. I mean, there was always Hutchinson and Thibodeau, right? But you weren't going to get up there. I don't think Brett Veach would ever give up the draft capital to go up into the top 10 from where they were. So I think that plays out that I was hoping they'd get a second pass rusher in the draft that had a little bit more diversity from the game that Karlaftis brings. It didn't happen, and I don't know that that's because they didn't try. They may have, and it just the way that it worked out, it may not have worked out. D'Angelo Malone was a guy that I really, really liked as a speed rusher. The Falcons took him even higher than I had him, and so that's pretty surprising. So I think that kind of robbed it of the possibility there. But you're right, the physicality and general athleticism, especially in the power-oriented stuff. Like Brian Cook's got good speed. It's not elite, but it's in the 4.4s. I mean, I would clock him at a 4.48 at the very worst. So he's there. He hits like a ton of bricks. Karlaftis hits like a ton of bricks. He breaks down and demands double teams. That's important. Obviously, Chanel's physical is all get out. The only guy who's really not is McDuffie, and he's such a great all-around player instinctually and in space that he makes up for that. I really like that. And you're right. They are going to have to lean on it a bit. And I hope, again, that it's the linebacker level that Spag starts dialing up some creative stuff from. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you as always. Mark, thanks to you too. Another member question. Has Sky Moore signed his rookie contract yet? Yeah, I think that was over a week ago. I think last I checked, there was only one remaining. I can't remember who it was, but I think everybody's pretty much signed by now. I have not been checking regularly, but I will try to do that before next week's Q&A. Stacking a few more questions here for you guys. Well, what did I do, Red? Something I did was just wrong? Okay, well, I've done plenty of wrong things. Who knows? Is there a place where you can find if players show up or not? Terry, you really got to rely on the beat reporters and the teams because OTAs are not open to the public. And in fact, the first practice wasn't even open to the media members. So you're relying on reports from the teams themselves or from the guys, the few media beat reporters that get to go to the practices. That's how you find out. And from what I understand, on the big positive side, Jody Fortson was there and practicing. So that means he's moving. That means he's running and he's on his way to recovery. And he said a couple, 2 weeks ago that he was impressed with his progress and that he was doing well in his recovery. But we didn't know if that meant he was going to be on the field or if he was going to be, working on the side like they do quite often when you're injured. But that I thought was a great sign that Jody's back out there. I don't see, other than stubbornness, any way that Jody Fortson is not the number 2 if he's even 90%. It shouldn't be Blake Bell anymore. Blake Bell should be a situational specific tight end. He should not be the second guy that you run out there. You have to continue to attack from the tight end position. And that means Jody Fortson second, then Noah Gray, possibly. I like Matt Bushman as well. He's what I think the evolution of Blake Bell will be, in that he can block, he can move. He's got better hands, though. So I'm looking for him to maybe make the roster. I hope so. We'll see what happens. But that's the gist of it, Terry. Julian, hope you're doing well. Signing Quinn. Did Quinn get released? Did I miss something? Ooh, I could have missed something. If Robert Quinn got released, then yes, I would go after him. Absolutely. Because then you're not dealing with the contract as it was. You're dealing with something new. I'm just doing a quick search here, you guys, because I want to know if he got released and I missed that. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. And Akeem Hicks. Yeah, I would like that. It just depends. I think Quinn, if you gave him a huge contract and you're relying him to be a starter, would probably hurt the defense. But if he's a situational pass rusher, he's kind of like Melvin, where he comes in pass situations, and that's all that he has to do. I think that's a plus. Akeem Hicks, I generally feel the same way about. I heard somebody say the other day that he's like over 385 and is not the explosive player that he used to be, even 2 seasons ago. So I'm a little more concerned about that. That might be more of a wasted signing if that's the case, Julian. So let's see what happens. I have to say, especially in the case of Hicks, I think if the Chiefs were interested, they probably would have already gone after him, given how thin the D tackle spot is. So that's just kind of my general thought. I don't know anything specific, but we'll see if anything else comes of it. Marshall, thank you for the support. Hope the fishing's good, buddy. As of right now, who's more likely to contribute this year, Powell or Ross? That's a good question. I mean, Ross has had 2 practices, you guys. He's still learning to line up in the right spot. You know what I mean? He's still learning to run the right route at the right time off the right call. So it's hard to judge now. That's really a judgment call for camp. But I will say this. Of the people that I've talked to that have been to practice, Powell hasn't made any noise. So just the fact, and you can't gauge it by what Chiefs media does, but when Chiefs official media puts out stuff of you making a circus catch on the sidelines with one hand, it's not like the rest of the organization didn't have input to that. If you're trying to keep him a secret, you don't put that out. If you don't think that he has a chance, you don't put that out. So you can't prove the positive off of that, but I think you can pretty much prove the negative off of that. So it feels like Ross is probably in the lead there, Marshall. Thanks. Julian, thoughts on Dunlap and Quinn as edges? I like the Dunlap option better. Dunlap, sorry. I think there's more juice there. And that's what it is I don't need every down. I need juice in the pass game. I would love, because what I had originally thought with Melvin, had he stayed here, my thought was at some point you can move Karlaftis inside because he rushes the B gap against guards great, and I love that. And that is a 4-man front that I'd be really happy with. You could probably do the same thing with Dunlap, so that if he's not playing on early downs and having to hold up against the run, that makes his life a whole lot easier. Saves his gas for when you need it in the pass game, and I think that's important as all get out. It may be the most important piece, to tell you that. So I hope so. Like I think it's viable, and quite frankly, he'd probably be cheaper as well. So I think they should be looking at him, talking with him. I don't know if they are or not, but I hope they are. So, all right, stacking more questions here, you guys. I got a couple. Let's see what Jaden's talking about. Are you confident that Chiefs defense can be in the top 15 this year? Right now, I don't have them in the top 15. It's always possible. I will be happy if they make it in. If they can hit 20, I'll be happy because it's yes, there's still holes. Like the D tackle pass rush is going to be there. Or a third pass rusher is going to be difficult at the edge spot. But you also got to remember you got a new at least one starting safety, probably the third safety, and the Chiefs want to play a lot of three safety dime sets. The third safety is going to be a rookie. One of your starting corners is a rookie. The other two have 3 years experience. So, like, there's some question marks there, right? There are questions right now with Orlando out and Niang hurt. You're going to start a rookie at one of the tackle spots in the run up to the season, and I expect Orlando to be back, hopefully on a new contract. But you're still going to start a rookie at right tackle because I don't think Niang is going to be back. And I do think that Kennard is likely, because of his experience, his length, and his ability in college, I do think he probably has the edge on Wiley to be the starter, unless he has trouble picking up the playbook. And the Chiefs will always err on the side of veteran, as far as I'm concerned, and from what we've all observed. So it could be Wiley, but I feel like the better player is likely going to be Kennard. So you're talking about, just like last year, at least 3, 4, could be 5 starters. If the Chiefs have to play base, if teams want to come in and run on them, which some could, you're going to see a lot of Chanel. I don't think you're going to see Chanel early because I think it'll take until about Buffalo until they try to really run on him and then play action Josh off of that. But I think Chanel is going to come on about halfway through the season. He might see, lighter duty early just because of the past games, but there's going to be a lot of rookies that have to contribute. And so getting up to top 15, I think, is kind of tough. Now, if they make a big acquisition, especially if it's a big trade, that changes everything. If they trade for a pass rusher so that Frank can play first and second down and either move inside or give way to a better pass rusher on third down, I think that changes the formula quite dramatically, to tell you the truth. Thank you, Jaden. Thank you, Doug. Hope you're doing well. What do you think of wide receiver Watson, formerly of the Bucks? Makes 53. He plays special teams also. Watson, formerly of the Bucks. I don't recall who that is. I'm going to have to look that up real quick. Watson. You mean, I know Greg Jennings came back, and I know Corey Coleman's back. I'm trying to think of who else you're talking about. See, and this is where I need Dan, because Dan be like, yeah, it's this guy. You're not thinking right. That's the way that it goes sometimes. But let me pull it up real quick, and I will go through it and see. So Bayless, Coleman, Fountain, Gordon, Hardman, Jennings, Sky Moore. Oh, Justin Watson. Okay, yeah, forgot about him. He does play special teams. Can he beat out Gordon and Fountain, who played special teams last year and did play a little bit, and then Ross? I think that's a stretch. Obviously, so much to the point that I kind of forgot about him. So I think it's an outside thing. If we see him start to make noise in camp, like, he has to do a lot more than just make noise in OTAs, but if he makes noise in camp, I think that could be an option. It looks like it's kind of an uphill battle, to tell you the truth, especially with Ross getting some attention early. So I don't know. I'd have to review it, but it feels like it's a long shot. Let me get a little bit more, and I'll definitely be able to tell you. I'll be at camp the week after the first preseason game, you guys. That's kind of my time every year. So I can get a firsthand look at him. Now, he's a 5-year vet, so I don't think things are going to change dramatically, but it always helps when I can actually see him move on my own in the offense, and I'll be able to give you a better idea then. Thanks, Doug. Jaden, I think Justin Ross plays the last 4 or 5 games of the year and racks up like 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. You could be right. I'm going to tell you my little plan for the season as well at that position. I think Ross has a shot. I don't think Gordon's going to go down without a fight, though. But it does feel like he might be the odd man out because Fountain's going to play special teams for you pretty consistently. Gordon won't. But there's one guy coming off an injury that probably won't be ready to play until November. But if you sign him early and you get ahead of the crowd and you keep tabs on him to the point that it's not like public statements when he's ready and then the teams come after him. I would bring in OBJ in late September or early October and get ahead of the groove and get him on that roster and let him continue and finish up his rehab with Rick Burkholder. You put OBJ in that room, it's all over. It's all over. I know he's not what he was. But you add him to that mix, it's gonna be crazy. So that's my little theory there, you guys. Ekia or IKEA? Ekia, sorry. Did we ever get an answer as to why they weren't able to re-sign McKinnon? Dude was a stud for us later in the season and in the playoffs. It wasn't that they weren't able to. As I understand it, they didn't make any attempt to. They never made him an offer, and they never made Daryl an offer. So their time had come and gone, and they weren't interested. Quite frankly, they wanted to get younger at the spot. They almost always do. So I don't think it was that they couldn't reach it. It's that they had lost interest. Quite frankly, I think Ely's got some explosiveness that they like, and they felt that there were a number of guys in this draft that they could get in on cheap rookie UDFA contracts and eat up the same kind of limited usage. So I don't know if they're right. We're going to have to find out, but that's what I think they were thinking, Ekia. Brian, welcome back. Ryan, excited to see Top Gun, Jurassic Park, or Downton Abbey? Yeah. I probably won't see any of those in the theater. I'm one of those, like, the original Top Gun was, formative in my life. I'm a little bit older than most of you probably. I don't really want to see that get torn down by 30 years of age on the lead character. I don't know. I'm a little cringy there. And Jurassic Park has been interesting in the reboots. It does look kind of cool, but my kids will probably love that. That's probably the one that I'm most likely to see because my kids will love that one most. So, and Downton Abbey, I have not watched that. I've heard of it, but I have not watched it, so I probably won't. We'll see. Thank you, Brian. Different kind of question. Red, thank you. Someone said CH lost a bunch of weight. Good thing or bad thing? Good thing if it's true. He can't be relied on to be like a wedge buster or a power runner anyway. So I'd rather see him shed some pounds and get a little bit more explosive. Now the key is that he's been hurt, and he kind of let it out at the end of last season, after the season, that he had an injury to his core. That if you have a core muscle injury of any kind, like, it's impossible to move as well as you're capable of. That's just a straight fact. So I'm more excited that if the weight is probably, my guess would be, a result of being able to train more. And if he's trained more, then he's in better shape. If he's in better shape, then hey, it's gonna be great. Okay, I thought you were trying to signal me, Stevie. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, and you guys know I don't get to see it very often except when I come back in to get questions. So unfortunately, they're on two different panes, so I don't get to see the chat live like Dan does. So yeah, I think overall, I think it's a good thing for Clyde. Hopefully it'll help in the pass game as well, but if he were a little bit quicker, I think that adds a little punch. So I'm looking for that. Excuse me, you guys. I'm over the cold that gave me this congestion, but there's just a little bit hanging on. Chris, if the Chiefs win the division, what does that say about the rest of the Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, who spent millions of money in the offseason? It means that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes were able to raise the level of this roster, particularly the offense and the pass catchers, to a point that counteracted everything that the other teams did. Now, the bigger question is going to be, are they going to be winning 1-point games? I mean, because Devontae Adams is going to be too hard to corral twice a year. Russ is going to get his. Now, I know Judy's had some legal trouble. I think he's going to be available for the season. Cortland Sutton, I think, is criminally underrated. The Chiefs have done okay against him, but it was Tyrann Mathieu that locked him down as an over-the-top defender most of the time. So that becomes a question mark as well. But if they run it, good Lord, if they swept them again, that'd be crazy. But if they're able to hold all of them off, I think it means not only did the front office do a good job in restocking the defense, but Andy and Patrick did a good job raising the level of the offense to the point that they could put up just a few more points in order to stay ahead of all those teams. They put all of that back into trying to beat the Chiefs. Thanks, Chris. Logan, other than Orlando Brown, do you think that there are any more offensive moves? I mentioned the OBJ one later in his recovery. You never know. If there were, there's like 17 tight ends in Arizona, right? If they let Ertz go again, would you go after him to pair him with Travis? That'd be pretty scary, right? If there's another quality receiver that hits the market, I'm sure they'll kick the tires. The question will be, do they have the money to spend? And that will be related to Orlando and his contract. They got to get that done first. If they do, then yeah, I could see other offensive moves. Until that point, it's hard to predict that because there's just not much money to go around. Thanks, Logan. Marshall, thank you again. Which rookie will have the biggest impact in year one? That's a great question. And it's all about how you measure it. Like, who's going to play the most snaps? I think it's going to be Karlaftis. Who's going to stop the most passes? I think it's probably going to be McDuffie. Whether it's deterring passes into his area or whether it's actual PBUs. But I think the guy that might actually get his hands on the ball the most is Cook. He also had an interception already in OTA, so he's kind of off to a good start. I like that. I hope it's Sky Moore, but it's hard to see that. He's got a harder path to significant contributing than the other guys do, because those guys are all going to be starters. And when I say starters, I mean that you count 3 corners and 3 safeties as starters on this team, because you never know what Spags is going to emphasize. They play so much of those. They play more nickel and more dime personnel than they play base personnel. So you got to look at it that way too. But if Sky does hit the ground running, if there's any injury to the receiver core, he could be the rookie that gets the most target share and therefore should have the most impact. Knock on wood. Great. And thank you for the support, Marshall. Bradley, was Tyreek Hill comment about Tua's balls being the prettiest he's ever seen, him kissing up to his new quarterback, or a shot at Patrick? It was about Tua. It was not about Patrick. And Patrick will tell you he doesn't always throw the greatest ball, but what he does cannot be done by anybody else. So that was Tyreek Hill, an all-pro, trying to lift his quarterback and maybe push him a little bit too. That's my read on it. Good question though, Bradley. Akia, hope you're back. Does Chris Jones get another extension with the Chiefs if he has double-digit sack season this year, or do they move on from him? Now, I believe he's under contract another 3 years, so I don't think it's an either or. It doesn't have to be right now. Let me take a look at what the Chiefs are spending, and I will tell you, and I'll look at Chris's contract in particular. And because here's the thing. Chris should be getting double digits. But when the offense can concentrate on him and double him and even leave a back in sometimes, not because they're trying to stop Frank Clark or Melvin Ingram, but because they're worried that Chris Jones is going to still beat a double team. That's significant. And it does make his life harder. So let me look at Chris just to make sure. Good Lord, is that right? Does Chris Jones have 7 years in the league? No. This is his 7th year, I believe. So his contract, I was wrong. He is still under contract for 2023 at 19 a year. So this is the year that they would move on. I think it's very hard to see 3 more seasons, but they could extend him for a year or 2 based on that output. If he gets 10, that means hopefully Frank gets close to 10. And if Karlaftis can get 6 or 7, I think you're cooking with gas at that point. So I would like to see an extension. Chris isn't going to make $20 million no matter what happens when he's going to be 29 years old for that year. So I think there's some cost saving. You can get there and keep them. Thanks, Ekia. Gooch is in the house. Everybody say hi to Gooch. I'm probably the last one who realized it. So cheers. Glad you made it, Gooch. Again, you guys, check out Gooch and Keys and Aaron over on their channel, Back Talk Bros. And I like the back talk. I like the giving people static. So I encourage everybody to check them out because it's a little bit different than what you get here. Because you never know who's going to watch over here. So I try to be a little bit more mellow and not as unfiltered as you can get from them. So check them out for sure. See more questions coming in. I'm stacking those up. We're at 45 minutes. We should be able to get through them all, though, you guys. And Doug, thank you again. Say hi to the fam. Appreciate that. And your support all the time, Doug. Really appreciate it. KL, how confident are you in Spags changing this defense to the new roster? Still seeing Sorensen in my nightmares. I don't blame you for the Sorensen nightmares. But let's be real. Spags isn't going to change that much. That's why Karlaftis is here. If Spags is going to change, they would have gone after a different kind of rusher. Again, this is not about George. George is the best power rusher in this draft. He might be the best power rusher in the last 3 drafts. But he is a power rusher. There is that limitation. And that, unfortunately, in today's league of getting the ball out so fast, is not as productive as it used to be. But Spags didn't change his tune. Spags stuck with what he likes, stuck with what he knows. And let's not beat around the bush. This was a Spags pick. It was very, very evident from everything that I saw that this was not anybody else's pick but Steve Spagnuolo's. Awesome. Everybody say hi. Everybody is saying hi to Gooch. Okay, the super chat button does work. Thank you, Gooch. I appreciate you confirming that. I'm glad you're back. Hope everything's going well. You, me, Stevie, and Aaron, we need to sit down at some point and get caught up because I don't know what's going on with everybody. I'm so behind. For those of you who don't know, I am moving. I'm in the process of selling and buying and doing all that stuff. So I'm everywhere all at once. It's been crazy. Jaden, do you think that we'll take the backup quarterback position this year? And do you think that it's the same 3 quarterbacks as last year? Right now, it looks like it's the same 3. I will say this, though. Dustin Crum came in rookie camp and beat out Anthony Gordon, sent him packing. So you never know. I liked Crum in college. He was a guy that I had on my UDFA list as one of my tops. So I hope that happens. But it's going to be Chad Henne. And then if Crum can get to the point that he pushes Bichelle, that's great. I don't know if he's going to get there. So I do see probably just being Henne, and the other guys can be on the practice squad and battle it out for a season. I think that's good for the team. Chris, what will the offense be overall this season? It will, in the end, I think, feel more like it did when Patrick first started, where I think it was it San Diego? It was back when they were in San Diego. Not the game that Sherm caught the wheel, but the other one where Patrick completed passes to 11 guys that day. And I think you're going to see more of that. And I think that makes them harder to defend. It's when you're just defending 2 guys, and that's basically all they did, and they dared everyone else to beat them. You can devote enough resources to that to get it done. When you have 5 guys that could catch a pass and actually make you pay for it every down, you can't double up like that. Teams are still going to double Travis, but everybody else is going to have shots. So I think it actually looks more spread out. And probably, I think the one who gets like the big bump in terms of production is Patrick, because he's going to have so many targets. But I don't think you're going to see. I think Kels gets his 1,000. I think one of the other guys will push for that, and then I think you're going to see it pieced together. If they get on the same page, you could see Hardman, Juju, maybe even MVS approach 1,000. If they get 800-900 yards apiece, then they're cooking with gas, and all is well. Gooch, glad you're here. He missed everybody here. Don't worry, we didn't disappear. We're always here watching the RGR Batman. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad all you guys are here. And for everybody who doesn't know, Gooch and Stevie have been with us from the beginning as well. Some of the first members ever. And now they do the huddle. You guys don't want to miss that. There's a big show coming up. I'm not going to give it away, but it's there. Yes, that's a very good way to put it, Stevie. I do, because my overall goals are to be the best analyst I can be without being, too fired up from one side because I do intend to work in this league or consult for this league. And I'd love it to be the Chiefs. We'll see if that ever happens. But I don't want to, I don't like stepping on toes like that. Doesn't help me. So looking for more questions. So if you guys want you want the fire, go watch the boys' new channel. Make sure. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm just not lighting matches while I do it. That's all. And thank you, Gooch, for the support as always. Bradley, does Noah Gray take a step up so we can play double tight ends sets this year? I hope that he does, but I doubt that he'll be in the doubles. The 2 tight end sets should be Kelsey and Fortson. I'd like to see him get back into the triple sets, in which then I think he'd be a good match there as well. Like, Kels got so beat up last year, physically pressed, all kinds of guys hitting him. Like, I'd like to see them run some of those old trip sets where he has a couple blockers out in front of him so he doesn't get so beat up. I think taking hits off of Travis not only helps this season, but it makes his career longevity better. And so, like, I'm all for that. Jaden, would you be shocked if one of these edge rookies broke out this year besides George? Broke out? I mean, it depends on your definition. I think both Hutchinson and Thibodeau can get to 10 sacks. I would be a little bit more surprised if Jermaine Johnson does, but he certainly has it in him. And I'm talking about as rookies. I'd be surprised if, like, D'Angelo Malone got that far as a rookie, but you never know. So breaking out would be like, 14, 15 sacks. And that would surprise me. I don't see that for any of these edges yet. Julian, what changes, adjustments would you see for Spags make for his current crop of defensive players? I mean, I mentioned the linebacker level blitzing. I'd like to see him play like an inverted double robber, because I think that takes away all but the deepest routes in a lot of times. And I think Juan is a good single high. For some reason, they don't quite trust him enough, and I'm not sure why that is. So I'm probably grasping at straws because of that. So, that's fine. But I'm just saying from my point of view, I would like to see that, because I think Cook is good underneath and I think Reed is good underneath. And so instead of playing too high and a robber, I'd rather invert and let Juan go high and then drop down Reed and Cook and play these spaces that teams try to make money on it. When teams try to run, the 12-yard overs and, the 8-yard ins to try to get over the top of the linebackers, but underneath the corners, I think those are places that you want to defend in a different way than you've done before. That's what I would like to see. And Legos got it. If you guys would hit the thumbs up, make sure you're subbed, do all those good things, because I know it's summertime and everybody wants, got other things to do. We'll talk about football in July, in August when they start back, right? Well, I'm here year round, and this is what we do. So I'm glad that you guys are here. And for those of you that aren't subbed yet, don't worry, we're always here. So that's the cool part. Let's see. Next. Oh, that was the one I got from Julian. Thank you, Julian. Stevie, thank you again. Good. Does that make me Robin or Alfred? Aaron Alfred. I mean, that's just kind of an easy connection there, Keys. So I like this. I expect to see the full-on role play in one of the videos. What do you think about Jaron Aley making the 53? I think it's an outside chance, but I think it's a chance. I think Pacheco's got the inner run. I think he and Gore are going to be kind of battling for that third spot. But Ely's a different beast. And in fact, today I went over the roster and they still list him as a wide receiver / running back. So, like, I mean, that's back to the days. I haven't seen that listed since Dat, right? So I'm really interested to see that. I don't think we're going to find that answer now. I think it will take training camp to see how they choose to use him. Right now, they're trying to see how could they use him. Then Andy's going to have to come up with a plan, and EB as well, to like, okay, how do we take advantage of his skill set in this league in a way that isn't predictable and doesn't cost us a roster spot at one of our other positions? So I think he's right on the border. Now, I also will say, I think he's a great practice squad guy too, until a little bit of adjustment goes on. until you get a little bit of attrition with the running backs, because running backs always get hurt. And then he has an opportunity. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that too, because you can call him up. And I like that. It sounds like, we don't have confirmation yet, but it sounds like the practice squad rules are going to remain the same. And they're going to be able to elevate guys from the practice squad. So cross our fingers. Chris, do you have a guess at who makes the practice squad? Very good. Ely's kind of on the edge there. There's going to be a quarterback at least. I think 2 of them probably. I think some of the developmental linebackers are going to make it on there. Plenty of DBs. I'm really interested to see if Boodle can push for the roster. I think that he might. I don't know. I think DeAndre Baker's still practice squad eligible if he doesn't win that roster, because right now I have it. What do I have? I have Snead, McDuffie, Fenton, then Lonnie Johnson, and then probably Baker. Boodle would be 6. Could that change around? Possibly. Is there anybody else? Oh, that I'm totally forgetting. Never mind. Baker might be the odd man out because of the contract, because Boodle's cheap, and it's Joshua Williams, the 4th round pick, that I'm forgetting, that should be on that roster. So there's a lot that could go there as well, right? They do have some interesting developmental tight ends. There's a couple of linemen on the offensive side. They need Herring to make this roster. If not, I'd put him on the practice squad. Now, again, he's not a guy that practiced at all last year, so he's a little bit behind the curve, but I like him for that, and I think that would be a good spot. I'm hopeful that he's got enough to make the roster, though. I'd like to see him and Dana as the backups. In your opinion, sorry, this is Eki again. In your opinion, what does a successful first season for George Karlaftis look like production-wise? It looks like a pressure percentage in the 20s. Now, he was a 26.7 in college. Everybody takes a dip. I mean, even the elite of the elites. So if he could manage a 20% pressure rate on his pass rush numbers, that would be epic. I would love to see 45 or 50 pressures, and I'd be happy with that. And if he breaks 6 sacks, I'm ecstatic with that, because that means he's playing as part of the defense, and he's taking advantage of what they have in Chris Jones and Frank Clark as well, and he's actually finishing. So that's where I'm at. I think any one of those is a successful mark. If he hits 2 out of the 3, it'd be incredible. Don't worry about tackles. That's not really a metric that's going to show up for any of the edges, really. That's going to be about Chanel and Gay and Nick Bolton. Darius, thank you for the support. Appreciate you. Best and worst case scenarios for each side of the ball. I have concern with PM15 in the offense. I have 0 concern, sorry. But I feel like the D could easily be bottom 5. And you're not wrong, Darius. They're going to start right about 30, because that's where they were last year. I'm hoping the defense can rise. It's a tough schedule, I got to tell you. And it's tough pretty much all the way through. But I'm hoping they can get it together and rise up. And I think that they can. If they get to 20, I'll be happy. I do think that 24, 25 is probably certainly within the realm of possibility. Getting into the teens is a happy plus for me. But I don't think they'll be bottom 3 again either. Let's hope not. That pass rush is going to have a lot to do with it. Thanks, Darius. And I agree with you about the offense as well. Jaden, if they bring in OBJ, that would be a very dangerous coffin. There will be for guys everywhere. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, people forget about him now because he got injured late. So, like, they're not putting a whole lot of thought into it. But as he recovers, teams are going to come calling probably in October, late October and November is when he should be able to, like, actually get back to practicing, is how I understand his timeline. So you got to be a little bit ahead of that. But, I mean, with everything else, you got to think that he's interested, right? I mean, another Super Bowl pretender or contender. The problem is he might want to go back to LA too. And the Rams could be trying to do the same thing. Just hold off long enough to get him signed and not get him a bidding war. That's probably a goal. Will the Chiefs address the DT this offseason, or did it dry up? It feels a little bit dried up. Hicks is certainly one that's been brought up a lot that I think could be viable. I may just do a quick perusal real quick, because I didn't see a whole lot else. last time I looked that I was kind of keen on. So we're just going to have to ride it out and see what they can develop as well. I think there's more likely either a cut down or a trade that they could get done, towards the backside of training camp. But I'm looking here. Harrison Phillips is an interesting guy too. He played in Buffalo for a while, but he ended up going to Minnesota. Sorry, I was looking at all of them, not the ones that are available. Luda Lele's out there. Sheldon Richardson's out there. A 1-year contract for Sheldon Richardson. I could go for that. Who else? Malik McDowell's out there. You could give him a shot. Who else? Panaziak is out there. He had a couple of decent games. So, like I said, there's options, but it feels like it's pretty dried up. Keith, thoughts on Danica Loftus' start and Clark subbing in situationally? Clark's best reps are against the run, so he may lose worth, but could try to max out whatever rush he can create. It's an interesting idea, and we could see that. I actually think it's going to be the opposite. I think more like Karlaftis and Clark start and Clark comes off or moves inside next to Frank on the interior if they can get another pass rusher. But you may have it right just to try to save Frank and get the most you can out of on passing downs, because that's where you need him the most. You're right. He is a good run defender, though, and that is important to set up third down. So you can't – I don't know if they can go away from that much. Lego, has the Chiefs organization gotten stronger, younger, shiftier in everyone's eyes? Opening up the backfield for CH, Rojo, and Pacheco are all known to have good hands. I hope Gray makes a big leap. Yeah, they have gotten definitely younger and stronger and more physical. Shiftier? Rojo and Pacheco aren't exactly shifty. That's not how I would term their running styles. So it's a little straightforward for me. Same thing with Gray. Like, I don't see him being a shifty guy. So I think that Ely's an option there. And obviously Sky Moore in the receiving core, it gives you a lot of shiftiness. So I think they'll rely on that. What were your thoughts on Mike Vick throwing a ball out of a stadium mimicking Mahomes? I didn't know that. I think that's interesting. I know he just signed up with the fan decided playbook league, whatever the heck that is. So I'm really interested to see how they implement that. Chanel, over under 4 sacks. Ooh, that's a good one, Steven. Because that's about where I'd put the line too. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to take the over on that. I do feel that situationally they can, man, if they blitz him, he'll definitely hit the over. If not, Truth, sorry, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Ekia, what are the expectations for Legarius Sneed coming off the season and having a slight bump in his second year? Can he become more of a leader in the secondary? That's really, I think what I was hoping, but it becomes a thing about personality. And I just don't know if he has like the vocal personality to lead other than by example. I think he's a great leader by example. So I'm not sure if they're going to get that. I would like it, but he's got to be comfortable with it in order to be effective with it. And that's really the bottom line for me. If he can't be effective, then don't worry about it. You just do your job and take care of business. And I think that will be fine. So we'll just have to see. I have not interviewed him. I don't know many that have. So I just don't know what his personality is like. And I do think that they're pushing Justin Reed to be that leader. Truth, what do you think about Justin Ross and the one-handed catch and the reaction to Kelsey and Mahomes? I think that says a lot about what his talent is. But like I told Chris Clark on Locked On Chiefs today, that's what Justin Ross was. That's what he was his freshman year. He got hurt and we've seen less of it, but we still even saw flashes of it last year. Just wasn't much. And so that's what I expect from him. The fact that he's doing it now on air makes sense. Can he do it when the pads are on? He's got a defender in his face that is better than he's ever played before. And that's going to be a question mark. But yeah, he certainly got a shot. And I think those guys like the big plays. And when Mahomes and Kelsey are pumping you up, that's a good sign. Jaden, if your 4 wide receiver core is OBJ, MVS, Hardman, Smith-Schuster, Gordon, and Ross Moore, plus the tight end group, and our running backs, is that a top 2 offense? Well, Gordon won't be there. I'll tell you that. And they don't need him. OBJ, MVS, Juju, Moore, Hardman. You'll have Fountain for special teams. Gordon won't be there. And that's okay. Josh didn't show me anything last year. I was disappointed because I really thought he's going to be able to come in and make a difference. If that changes, great. But yes, with Kels, Gray, and Jody, yeah, I mean, they have the ability to be not only a top 2 offense, but the top offense. It will then come down to Patrick maturing and not pushing the deep ball when he shouldn't, and when it's just too hard, and taking what's there, moving the ball, and getting first downs in order to score points. Stevie Keys, and I like the change there. If you were able to move on from Spags after a bad defensive season, hypothetically, does Karlaftis still have a role on our team without Spags? Yes, he definitely does. And I put this in my eval pre-draft too. With Cullen being the defensive front coach now, the line front, if Steve Spagnuolo were to get released, the guy with the most defensive coordinator experience on the roster is Cullen. He runs a 3-4. I think Karlaftis can be a very effective 3-4, 5-tech D end. I like him in that role because it's perfect for him. He gets to be head up on a guy where his limited hand power actually works better. When you're an edge and you have to attack a shoulder, you have to have more hand movement, but hand power is better when you're heads up on a guy. I really like that. So yeah, if they were to change that, I think Cullen would probably become the defensive coordinator, and that would probably lead to a 3-4, and I think that's fine. Now, if they didn't go Cullen and they stayed in a 4-man front, I think because of the investment in the first round and because you still feel that there's upside, because he's only played 6 seasons ever. So I still think there's football upside in him. I think he would still be there for his rookie contract, and they just have to reevaluate at that point. But it's Andy Reid. Things are going to have to get really bad, I think, before he pulls the trigger on Spags. Gasoline in a flask. You never know. Just, don't sip out of the wrong one. That's all I'm saying. You got to be careful when you got that stuff in your pocket there, Gooch. Okay, a couple more, and then we will call it a night, folks. This has been great. Thank you as well, Stevie. Does Pacheco make the roster? And how and where would you use him? I think right now that he does. Only because I think he's got a little bit more juice than Derek Gore, and I like Gore. The big question for me is not the pass catching, because I think he can do that okay. I don't think he's great, but I think he's good. It's the pass blocking. Can he be the guy on third down? Can he take the Darrell Williams role and be the big dude that's in there as don't hit my quarterback kind of guy? I think he's got the attitude for it. I'm not sure about the technique. So I think he's got some learning to do there. If he does, I think that would put him in front of Gore, and then he would make the roster. There's an outside possibility they keep 4 running backs, but I think that's kind of a long shot given the number of DBs and defensive linemen they're going to have to carry. So it might be tight there. And the Ely thing will be a factor, but I don't think it'll be the determining factor. So it is what it is. Let's see here. Jaden, do you think that the Chiefs get a lot of Blood Susan snacks from the safety linebacker? Not as much on the edge. Blitz sacks? Yeah, I hope so. I think that's the way it ought to go. If they blitz enough, they should be able to really rack up the pressures and probably the sacks as well from the A-gaps. Because both Nick Bolton is best in a straight line, right? Like when he drops to a position and then plays forward, that's his best stuff, right? For Chanel, anything forward is his thing. Like that's what he did best in college. Now I know he also has some development left in him as well. So like he could develop into a turn and run man backer. Maybe he's got the change of direction and the speed for it. He's just never really been asked to do it at Wisconsin. So like what he's good is attacking a gap, attacking a man. And I think he could really rack up some pressures that way. Jerome, what's the rule for the practice squad members, and are the teams poaching them? The rules should be the same as last year. At least that's what we're hearing. 16-man, able to elevate 2 and then send them back down. In terms of poaching them, that rule is the same as well. So any team can offer any practice squad member a contract, and it's up to them to take it. Now, there was rumor about them putting in a clause so that the team that they're on the practice squad for could match it, but I haven't seen anything about that happening. And there are more owners meetings before the season that could still happen, but I haven't heard about it. So do you think we have a third-string quarterback and then a practice squad quarterback? No, I think there's 2 guys on the practice squad. I think it's just Henny as the backup. I think they need the roster spot, to tell you the truth. Okay, that is my alarm that we are just about done, folks. One from Cole, and we will get out of here. I saw an article from Fansided today that speculates that I hit the wrong button and that Frank's job could be in jeopardy. Do you think that he'll make it given a crappy production? I don't know who wrote that or who was thinking that his job could be in jeopardy, because if you were to move on from Frank Clark, who do you have? Mike Dana as your outside pass rusher? I don't see how that works. So that's a tough one. I doubt it. If they were to sign or bring a trade in that did that, again, they're just eating dead money. So I don't think there's any way that happens. It would be silly unless there is some kind of verdict. I think he has a hearing in late October, early November about that charge from California. If he were to get, sentenced or anything like that, I think they would drop him at that point. But that's about all I can foresee. And last question, should we bring in Justin Houston on a 1-year deal if he's cheap? I wouldn't mind it. I'd love to see Justin back. I don't think Justin wants to come back to the Chiefs. I think that bridge has been burned. So I doubt that that's a viable option at this point. Never say never. I would like to see it. I was upset that he left. Like I still long for the days when a guy was able to negotiate a contract and stay with his team. So I would love to see him back, but it is what it is. Okay. Miss Holly, thank you. It's nice to see you. I hope everyone's having a great holiday weekend. I hope you guys are ready for it. I'm still going to pre-record something for you on Sunday, and I'll look to do the main stream on Monday night, like always, just because I should be back. So, hey, it is what it is. I hope that you guys are ready for a good holiday. You deserve it. Chiefs Kingdom deserves it. Keep an eye out. We'll have more content coming for you. You want to see Stevie Gooch and Aaron here pretty quick on the huddle. You should see that shortly. Don't forget about us. I know it's summertime, but we're going to be here the whole time getting ready for the season. So thank you for all your super chats, all you new membership members. Love that. Check out NFL 33. I got some stuff coming up over there. And I'm starting the summer watch on next year's draft class, so we'll know what's coming. A lot going on. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow.